Fantastic. All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we have one of my really good friends, Mario, who's going to be talking a bit about game design, discussing a bit about his journey in game dev, and giving you, the tips and tricks you need, especially for someone that is just starting out. So, Mario, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Mhm.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, can you tell us a bit about yourself, what kind of games you've made, what your journey was like, etc., all of that?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So basically, I've been in the industry for more than 10 years already. So I started like back studying like a kind of a video game degrees in Barcelona, basically. After that, I work in different like positions. Basically, I've been in mobile. I've been working as a game designer, programmer, then artist. So I've been jumping around a bit, different roles. Of course, I chose to study like and go into this video game career because I'm like, of course, a huge gamer. Like since I was like I don't know 5 6 years old, I played so many games. So it was like okay, I should take that path. So basically, yeah, I ended up working in many places, and then at certain stage, after like 2 3 years in the industry, more or less, I decided that you know what, I want to make my own video game, as everyone thought someday, right? And yeah, I started my own company with some friends, and lucky or not lucky enough, let's say it happened during COVID. So it happened on 2020, and we actually started because we got selected in one of the programs here in Barcelona, and we got incubated as well as a study. Of course, with the restriction of the location, and we couldn't be in the place remote, but we managed to move forward. And basically, what we decided to do is start something that I will not recommend to anyone right now, which is going straight with one difficult genre, which was the roguelike, basically. So we chose to follow the path of Hades and these big roguelike games and go with one. And I mean, as it turned out, let's say, kind of well at the beginning, right? So we started development and we managed to complete like a like a small demo, which we managed to sell to different publishers, investors, and after like it was more or less like 6 months of development of this demo, as another 6 months of changing and iterating and pitching to publishers, we managed to find one, and we got funded as a studio as well with some help of state fund and everything. So we managed to reach our company, which was named Rufus Games. Yeah, this is like the first game or the first, let's say, big game I worked on, and I took the role mostly of as game design and artist, assisted a bit of development, mostly focused on that, and then the role of producer. So this is mostly what I'm leading on right now as well in production. But this is more or less the roles I took, and this game took us like more or less like 2 years development after that. So it was released on early access, so I can give some best as well. And then it got released back on 2023. And okay, well, kind of okay. We sold like 12,000 copies, which for the first game it's nice. But sadly, it was not enough to recoup all the money we invested, and we got from the publisher. So we had to jump here and there. So we put the company to inactive, and then I've been working on other like gaming things. Lately, ended up in the Middle East, right in Riyadh, where I met Ashraf with an incubation and accelerator program as well, helping studios from the Middle East to create their games as well. I was like the program director, program manager there, helping as well with production, game design, many things, helping these studios. And then lately, I came back to Barcelona, and I'm working now in VR as well. Not totally connected with gaming, but as well interactive and digital content, let's say. And on my free time, I continue with my company, basically now more as a hobby, creating smaller games. So now we have a different strategy of more like not so big as a roguelike, something smaller that you can shift faster to the market. And the last one we released was Receipt, which was like a puzzle platformer. Big mistake, not the best of the genres, but okay, it was more of a learning on how to do everything on Steam on our own and see how this the market right now. And yeah, that's more or less the background on where I am right now.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. This is really cool actually. 10 years summed up in like what, 5 minutes? That's quite a journey. Also, I love how you said that you like took on a lot of different roles. So before we get into the game design stuff, why did you have to do that? Like, why did you do, programming, art, design, production, everything basically? Um,
Yeah, at the beginning, I mean, it's obvious. No one like you create a company, right, with your friends. Um, I mean, you kind of create it out of friendship. So it's like, okay, which role you are, which role you are, and then you try to cover the gaps and put as many hats as possible, right? So I joined with two developers, so they were pure developers. One was helping with the game design, but the most developers, and I had to take the other role of game design and art. So we had two developers, one myself, game designer and artist, and then I took as well the role of production, which no one wants to take never. But then I kind of liked it, so I continue with that role. So yeah, yeah, and it's always because of a necessity, let's say, when you start.
yeah, absolutely. That's been my experience as well. Like whenever I'm working on games, I end up doing everything from like design to anything that's not art
Mm.
and music, I end up having to do in one.
Yeah, yeah, it's very common scenario actually in many companies, like to have like mixed roles. It's always very hard to find specific roles on smaller companies when you start.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, since our session is specifically about game design, you've made quite a bunch of games and you've helped a lot of teams make their own games as
Hmm.
and from my experience talking to you as well about my games, you have quite a lot to say when it comes to, designing games basically. So, whenever you want to think of a game or whenever you want to make something new, or even, expand on certain parts of a game, how do you think of a game's design? Like, do you think of the core concepts? Do you think of the ideas that start something like, you know what I mean? Like, how do you get a game started from like nothing? Like, do you have a concept and you start coding it directly, or how would you go about it, basically?
Usually, what I like to do is focus on fun mechanics. So with the time, I've seen that at the beginning you start like building something always very big. You know, it's like yeah, I'm gonna do like I don't know, fighting game with a narrative with this story, and it's like you try to do kind of as a whole. And now with the time and experience, I felt that every game has like a foundation, right? So everything starts from a very very small thing that it's very fun, and then you build around it, right? So now when I design or think on a new game, it always starts like this. It's like I always find or look at other games, think on my like memory from games I played in the past, and try to look for some like very very fun specific mechanic that maybe you don't know if it's fun, but it's like okay, that sounds cool. So let's do a small prototype and see if this mechanic itself it's fun enough, and then with that you can get started. But this is usually how we begin, or every idea. Like for instance, you mentioned receipt for receipt. If you look into the trailer, it's a very specific mechanic. It's like puzzle where you replay your own game trying to dodge the traps, right? So it's very very specific, and from there you iterate and make it bigger or smaller or as you choose. But yeah, that's the origin of it for me.
I actually would love to show Reseed here if you're fine with it.
Yeah, sure.
I'll open the Steam page and show that
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you're good with it.
But for instance, like the other game, the same. The Deflector, basically, the Deflector was like another roguelike, top down roguelike action.
Mhm.
But it has a very specific mechanic, which was that you could deflect any bullet in the game, right? So we did everything. This is the first thing we iterated in a month or so. We had a prototype of that.
Mhm.
Just a cube deflecting thing. It was hell fun, and it's
Yeah.
like okay, we need to build around it, and started building. And what happened with that game is that we overbuilt. This is a
Mm,
big mistake that many studios do. We did, of course. You overbuild and you overscope the game, and then you end up with a huge doubt
yeah.
of no, huge doubt, no, huge debt to
Yeah.
recoup your money. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, so basically what you're saying, to try to summarize this, is you have to try to, first of all, take inspiration from different games, different media, different things
Hmm.
seem sound fun. And then you pick a core concept. It could be like a small, a basic, or not necessarily basic, but like small action that the player will be doing, and then try to iterate on having this action be the thing that the entire game is built around.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll show the trailer of Reseed now. I actually have it open. But what you mentioned about deflector was all bullets must be deflected. Basically, that was the grounds that you built the game around. Okay,
Hmm. Yeah,
perfect.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it can be it's a mechanic, it can be a rule, it can be a dynamic. It's
Mhm.
something that the whole game grows around. It can even be something artistically or music wise. It's like it gets more complex that way, right? But
Yeah, of course.
speaking about game design, but it's always that something that acts as the core, as the as the sun in the solar system of what is a game, right?
Yeah, yeah, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. So I think you guys should be able to see my screen. So this is your game Reseed, and
Hmm.
inside Reseed, you can kind of see how you're walking around. And what's this? What's up with the spikes? Like what happens here, basically? Can
So
you?
basically, the game is very very simple. It's like a platformer, right? Where you cannot see the traps. So basically, you have a character. You need to complete the level without seeing the traps, and then there's another character that follows the same path, but now with the traps on the level. So if it encounters a trap, it dies. So it's a memory game, right? When you die, you need to play again, but without seeing the trap, trying to jump over it, and that's it.
Mhm.
And then at some point, with repetition and memory, you manage to kind of complete the level blindfolded, and then the other character completes it. It's
Okay.
very simple. It's very simple. It's something that literally this game, the prototype, the first level, we did it in a weekend,
Hmm.
and it's like, yeah, it's fun. Let's do a game out of it. It's a game we did in 3 months. Like
Yeah.
it's not a big thing. Let's say.
But you finished the game and you released it on Steam.
Yeah. We finished. We released it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Exactly.
So this is something we will talk about as well in a bit. I think it's very important to discuss finishing your games. So
Yeah.
we'll get to that in a second. So my next question, which kind of you've answered already, which is how do you make sure that a game is fun? Like, do you test it out only by yourself? Do you check with other people? What is it that you check to make sure that something is actually fun?
So yeah, the first step is you testing it by yourself, right? This is the first step. But then again, like I think the most important thing before even assuming that if the game is fun or not is that you really identified what is this core mechanic. Because if not, it gets messy. You know, if you have many things in the same at the same time implemented, different systems, that are not part of this core mechanic, then it gets blurry, and then you don't know if it's fun because of the second mechanic, or I have seen some people, for instance, in the program, not that they told me like, yeah, this mechanic it's amazing. I created like I don't know an ability system that it's very cool. You can combine abilities. And it's like my game is super fun. Okay, but that was a system that was on the top of a combat gameplay. What happened? That the combat was shit. It didn't work out. It was very slow. It was not smooth. So then your game is not fun, but it gave the illusion that it was fun when it was not. So it's again going back to, okay, what is the core thing of your game, and then try to make that fun. And then basically you will need to test it first, but then at the end of the day, the only thing that can assure that your game is fun is give it to someone else to test. That's the only thing you can't get 100%, because at the end of the day, like when you develop a game, you spend so much time on it that at the beginning it could feel like a lot of fun, and then at some point it just feels like a routine. It's like you are just seeing this over and over and over, and you get into this kind of dark room where it's like you don't know if it's even fun what I'm doing or not. And the best thing to do there is grab a friend or go to some event or put the them on Steam. I don't know, like these type of things. Expose your game, and then see what people think about it. That's probably the ultimate thing you could do to verify if it's fun or not.
Okay. Yeah, that honestly makes perfect sense. Yeah, I've had this problem actually. Like whenever I join game jams, sometimes I think of a concept and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be so much fun. It's gonna be amazing. And then I create the thing and then I get my friends to try it and they're like, eh, yeah, okay. Well,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
without testing, you're never gonna get anywhere exactly. So we have a few questions from the team. So I think
Oh,
I'm gonna
let's
hop to
go.
this for a second and then continue with mine. So Donna asked, she's a 2D and 3D artist. How were you able to sustain yourself financially after starting your own company and making your own game?
Okay, so basically, this is we did you can say a jump of faith, kind of. It's like the first year we just saved some money before, and then the first year we said like, okay, no salary until we managed to fund the game. There was one very important thing, that it's always set a deadline, because if not, people gets very stressed. They get at some even points paranoid. It's like, and they lose trust on the project. So always set a date. So what we did is like, okay, we started on 2020. If by, I don't know, April, something like this, or mid-year 2021, we didn't do anything, we didn't manage to sign a deal, it's over our journey. What happened is that we managed to do so. So by February or so, we got a first offer from a publisher, and from then on, we got funded. So the next 2 years of development got funded by the publisher. So that's why we managed to sustain ourselves for the rest of the development. But before, it was all on our own savings, basically.
Yeah, there's a lot of times when you have to like just like Mario mentioned, like leap of faith is super important.
Hmm.
And yeah, I guess you have to have money saved to a certain extent before you're able,
Yeah. Of course, of
unfortunately.
course.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, if you live with your parents, helps.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Otherwise, it gets complex.
100%. 100%. So Ahmed asked, when you said you didn't recoup the investment from the project you made, how did you calculate the investment, assets, commissions, licenses, etc.? Or did you also count in the salaries that you guys may have gotten? So,
Uh, yeah, technically for us, so what means recover? It's like to return what it was invested on the project, right? So this never happened, or it's starting to happen now. Basically, we're very, very close, but it's too late already for us. And and indeed, for us, what it means recoup or success was to fund another game, right? So we got the same amount of money or half of it that could allow us to develop another game for the next year and a half, 2 years, then it was a success, let's say, or recap, you can say so. But it was not the case. The kind of the sales were so slow that it couldn't catch up with our expenses. So we didn't have an alternative than to set us inactive and look for another job rather than to continue. So yeah.
thank you. This was a great answer. And by the way, guys, just so you know, we have a session with someone who's going to be talking about publishers and how to talk to publishers coming soon. So any, publishing questions, any company questions, we'll have someone to answer these as well for you guys later on. So I will take two more questions. I have all the questions saved, and then I'll hop back to my questions, and then we'll just basically alternate. So Husa, I think, is asking, for the art design itself, is it better to have a character with less details or more details? Or would having too much detail create a problem with the game and its mechanics and stuff?
For the art design, okay, characters. Um, hmm. I don't know. It really depends on the game. My advice will be that always design comes over the rest of the things. So if art destroys design, you're going the wrong direction. So design always needs to be put as a first priority than the rest of the things. So if your character needs to be blue because you have like, I don't know, red backgrounds, then it needs to be blue. You cannot change it to red because you have red backgrounds. Then it won't be seen. So if you apply this rule, then when it goes to details, it's will be better for some art design or for some style or another. But then at the end of the day, it's like when you go to the game design is readability. It's like, does the player understand that this is the main character? Maybe just there's like the character has some more sort of ability, like is this ability really well represented on the character, and you can really read without doing a tutorial of 100 pages that this is the ability and it's on the character. So it's a thin line between what you want to use for your art and then that it really helps or enables the design that you want for your game. So it's tricky.
Yeah. I guess the short answer is it depends as well
Hmm.
on the kind of game that you're making. And
Yeah,
if for example, one of my favorite games in university was One Finger Death Punch, where you play as a stickman, and then there are
I
stick
played. I played.
sides. It was so much fun.
Yeah, it's so much fun.
Yeah, and like different colors. All they had was like little arrows under them, and then they told you to shoot left or right. It was that simple.
Hmm.
Then on the other hand, you have like The Witcher, Skyrim, Cyberpunk, whatever. So it depends on the kind of game you're making at
Yeah,
the end of the day.
yeah.
All right. Last question from Sada for now. Her name is Sada, and she's an AI engineer. How can she merge her study field with game dev while also being interested in 3D? Is she way too distracted, or, you know,
I don't know, honestly. Like, so if you become a jack of all trades, happens to something like happened to me that yeah, I know a lot of fields, but I'm not a specialist like in any of them, kind of. So maybe the most is probably game design out of all of them because it's the one I spend more time on it. But if you want to go towards the jack of all trades, try to keep it simple, right? So if you want to go into development and then 3D at the same time, do something that it's like simple on both of the levels. Don't get into, I don't know, like a game that with has realistic graphics and then focus on development because you won't have time to learn development. If you need to learn how to pooling, retopology, and all this stuff, keep it like with low poly, learn low poly, and then learn development, and then at some point you say like, look, I prefer 3D, and then you go full 3D or the other way around. But keep it simple. That's probably the best you can do if you want to go with both.
Absolutely, absolutely. Awesome. So hopping back to game design for a bit, what are some like really memorable games that you've played? And like from a design perspective, what is it that made them memorable? Is it like something you were able to do? Is it something specific? Like for example, when I played Portal 2, I don't know how many of you guys have played it, like tiny spoilers. But like remembering like seeing the top of the building open up and then showing you the moon and then you
Yeah.
realizing what you need to do, it was a very nice design decision for me. So it was something that was super memorable. So if you wanted like what are some good examples of like games that have smart design choices that make them memorable or fun to replay or something of the sort?
So to me, I mean, I had it with many games. For instance, from the top of my head, I can say Outer Wilds. I don't know if you played Outer Wilds, but how everything puzzles around, and then the ending is like it's crazy. It's very very. For instance, Outer Wilds is an example of very very well designed game. On that sense, Portal 2 is a very good example. I mean, to me, at the end of the day, and this is not related to gaming. Like memorable things are connected with emotions, human emotions. So if at some point, it's like you remember something from your childhood, when you felt like extreme happiness or extreme fear, or extreme epicness, So if you want to uh, reach to this memorable point, let's say in your game, kind of, you need to try to find these points. And this is what these games do, right? It's like Portal putting you the moon there and then letting you guess that you need to shoot because during the whole game they're telling you that the walls are made out of moon, stone, and it's like when you click there, it's like, oh yeah, I'm awesome. It's like you solve the puzzle. Puzzle, for instance, puzzle is one of the most memorable things you could as a game design mechanic. But when it comes with so much anticipation, it's like so it creates this memorable moments that many games do. But it's it's like trying to find an emotion, so strong that it sticks to you, basically.
This reminds me actually of a game I played as a kid. It was called Press Space to Win. So the entire game is you just clicking space to move it forward, and it's like press space to attack, press space to pick up the sword, press space to kill the guy, press space to kill the dragon. But like you go through it, and they slowly start to hype you up, and then they make you fail at some point, and then they hype. And all you're doing is pressing space. So technically, like there was no game in a way. It was just a slide,
Hmm.
but it was quite memorable as well because of, as you mentioned, it's because of all the way that they were able to put the emotion together in one way or another.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So yeah. All right, another question. Whenever you're making your game, especially if you want to try to sell it or make money, does the genre that you choose matter? And if so, like why?
Yeah, yes. So to me, like, and for what I've seen, what I try experience myself, genre it's one of the most important things you could pick, right? I mean, there are always exceptions, and cases where you build something from a genre that you don't care, like whatever genre, and then it turns out well. But for the average sales, I think genre matters a lot, right? Because you can go to websites like Gamalytic. I don't know if maybe you can share the link after of the website, where you can scan the genres in Steam, for instance, and you can see that there are genres that are crowded, right? So, for instance, you can see as an example the game I released, Receipt. I did a puzzle platformer, right? What happens that puzzle platformers is kind of easy game to make, and for that reason, there's a lot of people that says, I want to make a game, I'm going to do a puzzle platformer. What happens that Steam has millions of puzzle platformers. So if you want to stand out doing a puzzle platformer, it's extremely hard, right? So there are some genres that I'm not speaking about true success. It's just that it makes the chances of success a bit more easy. I don't know how much, but a little bit more, kind of. And at some certain point that are like more easy to do something. There is like not so crowded. There is more niche. For instance, like I don't know, there's genres like farming. There's some farming games. Little people doing farming games, and then you release a farming like Stardew Valley, and you get really nice sales. Because you chose a genre that people likes. There are not so many. There's not so much competition on that genre, and you can make a good amount of money. So it's it's really important to pick the nice genre as well with trends. There are trends, right? If you if you do a friend swap now, or maybe now it's a bit in the line, but if you did a friend swap, I don't know, 5 months ago, then it was imminent success, or a vampire like some time ago, or there are as well like the wave of trends of genres that are famous and that they assure a bit more of a success. But at the end of the day, like success, it's an accumulation of many things, not only the genre. It's, genre, good mechanic, well game design, well execution. So, but if you do all and then you fail on the genre, it's a big problem, right? So make sure to pick a nice genre to make your game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess given that there are a lot of people that have never made a game before, let's say that they're not trying to sell the game, and instead
Hmm.
they are just trying to make their first game. Some of them may have experience with art, some of them have experience with design, some have a bit of experience with programming. What's a good game just to, try to make games with? What's a good genre to start with?
A good genre. Good question. I mean, if you're not doing it for the sake of making a business out of it,
Hmm.
technically you could pick any of the simple genres. Even platformer. It could be platformer. It could be, I don't know, some like puzzle game. It could be a small adventure game. I mean, technically it can be anything. It can be an incremental. For instance, incrementals are very simple games to start with. You know,
Hmm.
the main point is to pick something that you can finish quick. And it's small. And again, it has like a small core mechanic that you manage to get it fun, and then you build on the top of it.
Hmm. Perfect.
Yeah,
Since you mentioned core mechanic, actually, we have quite a few questions about this, so I'll just mix them together.
yeah.
Which is, can you explain for us what a game loop concept means and how to know that the game loop is actually good depending on what type of game we're making? Someone else asked the same question and said, what's like a game, what's the game core, what is the game feel, what's the game loop? Basically these words that we've been using without defining.
Okay, okay. So basically, we're gonna start by the game loop. The game loop is like what the player is doing throughout the game, right? So, for instance, there's this genre like extraction shooters. No, the player enters the world, scraps some resources, goes out, improves his character, goes back again. Roguelikes follows the same game loop, and every game has its different game loop. But it's kind of a loop of actions that the player is doing all the time. That um, the player immediately understands, and knows that it's doing that. For instance, a survival game is like you collect food, you eat, you survive, you sleep, you survive for the next day. So it's kind of the loop the player is doing in the game, and it helps to drive the player. It's like kind of the thing that takes the player along the game, basically. And then the mechanics are introduced there. I don't know which other questions were related to this, like core mechanic. What is a core mechanic, or what was
Yeah, so it was yeah, the game core, game feel, and game loop.
game core? So game core, we could say that it's like different words here because it's not the same core loop, game core. Let's say the core loop is what I discussed, right? It's like the loop the player is doing all the time over the game, and it's immediately understandable. And that's one cool thing, that if it's not understandable, what is the core loop, then the player gets lost and then they drop the game. They need to understand clearly what is core loop because it acts as I said, like as a lead and as a objective for the player. It's like, okay, I understand what I'm doing. And then the core loop usually introduces many mechanics, and within there, the core mechanics, which are the mechanics that are more important, which basically it's very easy to identify them. It's like if it's a mechanic that you remove from the game, then your game doesn't make any sense at all. That's a core mechanic. If you remove a mechanic and then the game can continue as is, you know, then it's not a core mechanic. For instance, a racing game and you remove the car, then what? There's no game, no? But if you remove the curves, then maybe, yeah, you can do an endless runner, without the curve. It's just like a racing game that is straightforward. So there are like different things that you could have there. And then the game feel is another different level. So the game feel is um, it's kind of to make the game, they use this word in the industry, like feel juicy, right? So it's like the pleasure of playing. It's not the same having a, how to say it, like, I don't know, a shooting game where a box shoots bullets without nothing, right? Then shooting, and then there is sound, and then when the bullet impacts, there is like, I don't know, effects, and then there's bounciness, and then the character goes back because of the strength of the bullet, and there is like sound, all this is the game feel. It's what, when you do it, you feel immersed into the game. Without game feel, the games feel so like lacking. It's just like it's not fun. Even the mechanic is fun that it can happen. It's still missing something. It misses the game feel. To make it feel like nice to play and with a lot of effects and with care. So it can be like a full experience. Let's say.
Absolutely. This is a wonderful, wonderful answer. Like I was thinking of like a few mechanics as well. Like if we take the old Mario games, for example, like the core mechanics of the Mario games were running and jumping. Like if you couldn't jump, you could not play the old Mario game
No,
because
no,
you had,
yeah.
the first thing that happens is an enemy comes to you, and the only thing you can do is jump. And if you hit
Mm,
it, then that's how you could move forward. In a game like Doom, for example, it's shooting is the core mechanic. Shoot, it's you shoot the enemies, you win, you go to the next level. Even if you get a new gun, you're still shooting. You're still beating
mm.
up the enemies in one way or another. So and yeah, I agree with the game feel completely. Like I've seen so many videos of people going like getting a character from like just jumping up and down to like having them bend the knees, go up and go down, and then like the grass next to them like kind of moves a bit when they get into it and stuff. So this really does make the game a lot more juicy as well.
Yeah, yeah. I actually recommend looking into those videos, like using up my game. Check one video because if you have never seen it, when they show you the difference, it's insane. Like you see without juice, with juice, or with game feel, and it's like, it's like wow, this feels
Mhm.
like a finished game. The other one finished like a prototype or looks like a prototype.
Absolutely. I think one of my favorite videos from these was like someone that's made clicking a button fun. It's first you start with just like a button, but every time you click on it, you get like points and
Hmm.
sparks, stuff flies out and stuff. If you guys want, text me on Discord, like on the group, on the general channel, and I'll share the video that I'm talking about with you guys as well. Cool. All right, amazing.
One more thing, game feel it's mandatory. Like it's not something like yeah we can have game feel. No, like game feel it's mandatory. You cannot not have game feel.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. We talked about the genre. We talked about the first type of games you should make. Um, all right. So I guess the final question from my end, and then we'll go mostly to everyone else's questions because there are lots of really good questions, and I want to give the time to them. Whenever so as a game designer, you're not just going to be making your own games, you're also going to be looking at other games for inspiration, as you mentioned at the beginning. So when you're playing these games, how do you look at them? How do you understand the way they're designed, and how do you make sure that you're reading the game in the right way so you can actually understand whatever it is the designers have built? Like, do you look at something specific, or do you play through the game and then play it again with like the designer's eye, or like how do you go about it?
No, usually like in that sense, I like to kind of split myself. So if I'm gaming, I'm gaming and period. Like, but then if I need to look for from the designer side, then yeah, like either I play the game or I watch some videos, and then at the end of the day, is try to analyze the rules. Like everything, if it's well designed, everything has a reason. Hardly ever something it's implemented there without a reason. So why you go into, for instance, mirror sets. No, maybe it's too old, I don't know, but mirror sets has like the key elements of the game red, and it's like okay, why? Because the whole environment is white. So then why to explain where to go if you can just put the door red? So it's like you try, just you understand, like okay, I see what you did there. It's like you guided me through color, and this is a mechanic, or it's a dynamic, or something that you could use in your game. It's like okay, then if I'm gonna do a platformer, let's put the places where I can jump from a different color. So you kind of start extracting things from many games, and this is very useful when you have genre and read in mind. It's like I don't know, I'm gonna do I don't know, adventure is so an incremental game. I'm gonna do an incremental game, and then you go into incrementals and see how they achieve the different things. How they achieve like the game feel, or how they achieve this mechanic, how they manage to do the incrementality on, and then you can start analyzing kind of what they do, what not, but always trying to understand like why they do it. It's not because of yes, it's like there's a reason why this number, why this color, everything has a why. So this is kind of the idea behind looking into to asking basically why, you know.
Yeah. And I think it's very important to ask why, because this reminded me of something. I forgot which country it was, but they put a timer next to the red lights to show how long it's gonna have until the red light is off, and this actually calmed people down. Now, another country saw this and they decided to implement this, but the problem was they did not implement it only for like the red going to green. They also implemented it for green going to red. And the problem there was people were like, I have 5 seconds, and then
Yeah, yeah,
go faster and faster. So if you implement the wrong, like the right design in the wrong place, you're gonna like mess up completely in whatever it is you're trying to design. So asking why is super, super, super important.
Hmm.
Awesome. All right, so we have quite a few questions from
Yeah, yeah. Let's go over them.
awesome. Okay, so Mira's question about creating your own video game. Yes, you will be creating your own video game as part of the academy. But I saw that some of the answers were discussed. We can talk about this more on Discord. Jace asked, can you design a game in a genre you don't like? Um,
Yeah, yeah. Why not? Why not? I mean, you can do that. I mean, my first recommendation, if you don't like it, better don't do it. You technically do it because, like, at the end of the day, making games and even designing games to me, it's like a form of art. You know, it's like you like drawing and you draw. So if you don't like a game and then you try to do game design for it, it can get tricky, you know. So I will not recommend it. You can do it. If you had to do it, then first of all, play as many games as possible of that genre to get an idea, and then start designing. Don't get into it even if you like the genre, you should play a lot of games of that genre and then start designing. If not, it's gonna get harder, or you're gonna do things that are not right, and the industry or the standards for that genre are here, and you are here, you know, because you don't have the whole spectrum of what your audience is playing right now for that genres. So regarding of you don't like it or not, first play as many of these games. If possible, new ones. Don't go into 2024, well, 2012, I don't know, to play games, you know, because it doesn't make sense. So something that appear in the last 2, 3 years and see what they do.
Absolutely. So he followed up this with saying that the issue is you would never find it fun, because you could understand why other people, could you just understand why other people see it as fun without actually finding it fun yourself?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, technically you could. Oh, sorry. Well, yeah, you could do it, but again, it's an exercise of like open up your mind. You know, it's like okay, understanding like the player behaviors and dynamics is like why this is fun. You know, and if you reach to understand that, then you could make the game. If first, actually, we'll do that exercise. You know, if you don't understand why the game is fun, because this is another thing. If you don't understand why the game is fun, then don't do it. Because then you will not be able, because I mean at the end of the day, the main thing about game design or making a game is making the game fun. If you cannot make the game fun, doesn't matter what you do, you know, it's not going to work, it's going to fail immediately. So you need to understand why the game is fun, and if you manage to understand it, even if you don't like it, I think this happens with the AAA. So I think there's a bunch of guys up there that don't know why it's fun, but they just keep pushing, you know. Uh, but yeah, yeah, that's the most important thing. Like understand why it's fun.
absolutely. Perfect. Like work. Yeah, basically. Like, if you're making games for someone else, sometimes you're not going to be making stuff that's fun. This happened
Mm.
with me actually when I was working in my first job as a game dev. I was making mobile games, and they were not really my favorite genre, especially when it came to like word games and stuff. But just like Mario said, I used to download like a bunch of word games, a bunch of like these social games, and play them just to understand what they're building, why they're building, how they're building them, and then accordingly try to implement these in the games that we have. So yes, I wasn't having like wahoo fun, but I was like, okay, this is cool. Like I'd be down to play it if my friends are down to play it. So
Mm.
you learn to find the balance over time, basically. Awesome. So Ahmed has a question. He said you mentioned your first game was inspired by Hades, and this is a coincidence because me and my team are going in that direction too. Do you have any advice for us?
Keep it simple, I guess. So again, Hades has a side of very good gameplay. Well, basically, they have very good production power, right? I mean, they're like a studies studies, well, company basically, and the gameplay is so smooth. So they rely on that. The gameplay is so smooth. The art is so nice. If you want to be that level, either you get into there, or then you need to double down on game design and get with a mechanic that it's fun enough. So if you want to go into the roguelikes, make sure that your core mechanic it's really really fun and unique. If you're going with another fantasy, you know, yeah, I have swords and powers and I just fight monsters. I mean, there are many out there like this. You need to really find something that stands out for a roguelike, because roguelike it's a very challenging genre, because you're competing against those like Hades 2. Can you beat Hades 2? It gets hard. So you really need a good mechanic to enter that genre. But the good thing is that you can do it. I mean, you can use playtest first. Again, like it's what I said very at the beginning. Like if you want to go with that, first try to identify this mechanic, prototype it, see if it works, and if not, jump to another thing or iterate on it. But first, don't start like designing power apps, designing the story, designing I don't know the end game without making sure that your main gameplay, the main core mechanics, are very smooth and fun to play.
Yeah, absolutely. And like one of the hard parts, as you mentioned, about creating these games is like I play Binding of Isaac and I have like over, I don't know, 500 hours on it. And it's not that I'm bored of it, it's that I take breaks and then I go back to it. And it's like if I had to choose between this and something else, why would I choose something else? You know?
Hmm.
Whereas if I'm playing like a narrative-based game like Spirit Fitter or like Hollow Knight or whatever, well, Hollow Knight isn't narrative, but like, when you finish it, you're like, okay, I'm done, You're gonna try to find something else. But with roguelikes, you're either gonna go for the best or a different genre, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
It is tough. All right. So a question from Dana, which is, how do game designers collaborate with artists? I feel like this is a very general question. I'm not sure if you want to expand on it,
I,
but
I, I can answer a bit about that. It's what I said before. Like never ever let art drive game design. Never. Like unless you really know what you're doing, okay? And the art is like, I don't know, crazy. But always game design over art. Because if art destroys game design, then you are doomed. Doesn't matter your game is amazing. If you cannot see the character or you don't understand from where the bullets are coming or you don't understand where the platform is to jump, it's over. It's over, literally. So never ever let artists lead the game design. Always the other way around. The game designers like take the rules. And it's like, okay, perfect. Do a tree, but the tree needs to be green. Don't make me the tree blue, because if not, it's gonna blend with the sky. If you know what I mean. So always that way around, not the other way around.
perfect, perfect. Um, Ahmed has a three-part question. I'll try to summarize it into one part. It's basically, what's more valuable? Is it working as a generalist or as a specialized game designer? And if being specialized is more important, um, how much is going into like, how important is it to go into one field versus another? It's a very long question. So let's start with.
So yeah. So basically, it depends on your profile. So if you want to jump into entrepreneurship, right, creating your own game, generally it is always better because you have more skills. You can like easily join with other teammates, and create synergies. If you don't want to go that road and you really want to jump into the industry and work for other companies, then a specialist is better because special profiles are more looked for, paid for, because it's harder. It's like someone that has spent a lot of time doing that. I really want it on my team. So it's depending on the career path you want to take.
I think this kind of answers the entire question pretty well. Basically, if you're interested in going more into like AAA, into being very specialized and doing one specific thing, then you have to find the right company for that. But if you want to stay like, on small companies, if you want to be more on being able to have more control over like a smaller project, then you would probably go for a generalist.
Hmm.
That's more or less the summary of it.
Yeah.
All right. So Omar is saying that he's currently making his second horror game, but he found that it lacks specific unique mechanics, and he's afraid that it would be closer to a walking simulator with a couple of interactables and encounters. Is this a problem?
Um, I'd say yes. It's a problem. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are many horror games,
Hmm.
so it's hard to stand out. Maybe another time it will be easier to just lead the game, unless the game. So one thing with the horror games, if it looks amazing,
Hmm.
like really, really amazing, then you can pull it out, because people just with some art, and some really, really scary scenarios, you can pull it out and people will play it and they will have a good time. But if it looks, let's say, okay, for the nothing special, okay. If you don't have like a really unique mechanic, it's gonna be a struggle to make it successful.
Hmm.
Yeah. Because it's like at the end of the day, you want people to say something about your game. It's like, yeah, play this horror game because it's scary. They're not gonna say that, right? They say like play this horror game because it's like it looks really realistic, or play this horror game because you can go between the life and the death, and it's so cool because you have, like you want this follow up on their pitch to their friend, so they come to your game, right? And if you don't have that follow up, then it gets hard. It
Mm.
gets hard to show up in the citizen and in your friends, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, given that we're in 2026 and like people are making more and more creative games, you need to stand out, in one way or another. And as Mario said, if it's with the art, it's pretty good. If it's with the mechanics, it's even better. So just make sure that whatever you're making, also playtest. And again, playtesting is super, super important. And one of the things that we've seen the horror genre do is a lot of times it needs to be pretty streamer friendly to a certain extent because
Hmm.
that's what
Hmm.
really gets people going. They're like, oh my gosh, my favorite streamer played this game, so I want to play this game, do and try it out. So if you're gonna make it to be too linear, people might just watch their favorite streamer play the game and be like, oh, I got the entire thing. I'm not gonna play it myself now because I don't care anymore. So this is also something to keep in mind. Um, cool. All right. So Ahmad's asking, there are a lot of Ahmads, by the way. Could you,
Right, I
sorry,
know.
you say that polish is one of the most important parts that help with the game feel? So is polish one of the most important things for game feel?
It yeah. Yeah, yeah. So it makes a difference, really. Like if you play a game that is well polished, it feels like a final product. If it's not polished, like I don't know, some weird thing here, or you click and there is no effects, no sound, it feels like I'm finished, right? And it's not the same experience. So people might not, they play a demo maybe. Like for instance, this is the first thing you should do. No, you do a game and you need to make a demo, but it's very well polished. If they take your demo on Steam Fest, it's not very well polished, they may say like, I mean, it's fun, but it still needs a bit of development. No, but if it's very well polished, it's a very even if it's like a short experience, but it's very well polished, it makes a difference. At the end of the day, it's like the combination of everything. It's not the same that they put you the food on a plastic plate than they put you, in a very nice plate, with fancy forks and knives. It's like, oh yeah, I really want to eat this food. You know what I mean? So it makes a difference.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So we're almost at the end of the questions, which is also almost end of time, which is cool. So Noor is asking, how can a person make something that feels fun? Something that even if I take part of some game that people count as fun, it's not really fun. In mine, and actually when I am the one who makes the game, that makes me think it's actually fun to others. Okay, so basically the question is like, how can you make something that feels fun? Because sometimes, like whenever you're making a game, um, it feels fun to you, but it doesn't actually feel fun to others. So I feel like there's an underlying problem here, which is that people might not understand the game that you're building, and you kind of get it, but not everyone else does. So, does that make sense, Mario? The question?
Yeah, but there are like a few things.
Mm.
So there are like checkboxes to make a game fun, if I might say. Or there are like some I can go over them maybe. Maybe it will make sense. And then if that is not marked, then there could be the problem. If there's not a problem, then it could be anywhere else. It could be what you said, they don't understand. But well, this is one of the checks basically, other things. So I will go quickly over them. So first of all, um, player needs to have control over it, right? So if it frustrates by the controls or the interface, which is what you said, like they don't understand, this is a problem. So you need to make sure that the player always understands everything through tutorials. Everything is well explained, well designed. I went back to my example from before, like mirror sets. Putting the objectives in red. It's like they literally tell you how to play without telling you how. It's very well designed in that sense. So you need to have the player needs to feel that has control over his actions. Then the objective needs to be clear. This is even in human psychology. It's like if you don't have an objective. I mean, I know that there are sandbox games, but if we put that aside, every game has an objective, right? If they don't understand why are they playing, then they get just lost and it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just gonna quit. So must have an objective for sure, or somewhere there. It can be the core loop or something that leads the way for the player. Then it should be challenging. There should be some sort of like it cannot be just like flat game. It needs to really challenge the player to do something. and to feel that it's achieving things, but with the how to say it, without overcomplicating things. Like if the player reaches to frustration, then it's a problem. So it's a line, it's like a balance between like difficulty, you know, and the and basically the skill of the player. This is actually something that it's called zone
Mhm.
set PD, zone of proximal development. It's something that it's as well for when you study, something when you are learning, which
Okay.
is like the
Nice.
yeah, exactly. So it's like
Yep.
between the difficulty and the level of the player. And if you get that right, then it goes smoothly through your whole game. If at some point this curve breaks and it's very hard and it's not up with the skill level, then it gets frustrating and therefore it's not fun. And then probably the last one, it's the choices, like that you make in the game. Like things that you do needs to have an impact. They need to be meaningful. If you're making a game where you have a power up and it's like, hey, now you can jump 1% more, and it's like, okay, whatever. It's like, why I need to jump 1% more? But if you tell me like you can double jump, it's like, yeah, I want to double jump. It's look cool. So they're like these things. I don't know if they are more, maybe they are more, but these more or less are what really you need to have, because if one of those fail, then there's a problem then, and it can become that it's not fun, basically, because some of the thing is missing. It's like, okay, they can be, and this is probably one of the most commons. The game can be fun, but then player doesn't have control, or it's too difficult, and then they frustrate, they quit, or as Ashraf said, most of the cases the player doesn't understand, what has to do or what is it doing, because this is one of the hardest things of games. It's like to explain the player how to play your game. It's kind of challenging. So, and this comes with iteration, seeing people playing, understanding what to change, what not, using a lot the visuals to understand how to teach, trying to be smart about it, identify how other games do it, and then try to push that learning, because everything is about that. And even in mobile, if you're going mobile, well, this is the most important, it's like, you've noticed that, every time you play a mobile game, it's like, click here, click now here, now get this, it's like, because if at some point the player feels that doesn't understand what they need to do, uninstall, they uninstall the game and that's it. So retention. In PC, it's not as hard, no, because like the people paid for the game, so they have like a higher threshold. But if you reach the threshold, it's over, you know. So probably when you're making a game, first game you make for PC, you don't want the players to reach there when you are, for instance, playing your demo. They are playing your demo on Steamfest, for instance. You need to be very careful with that. So yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And like one thing to note about this as well is playtest, like playtest your game.
Hmm.
Because if you do, oh yeah, also whenever you're playtesting, we will talk about this later as well, but very briefly, when people are playtesting your game, do not tell them what to do unless they ask. But even then, ask like just watch people do things because that's the only way you'll know what's wrong with your game or what's right about it. Look at the way they smile, look at the way they get confused, look at the way they get mad. Look at when they leave. They might be playing like if you're showcasing your game with other people, they might be like, oh, okay, and leave at some point. And you might realize everyone leaves whenever they get to a certain spot in the game. So you might see that this is the problem. And this is something that you did not think was a problem before.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah, yeah. And
yeah.
this is like technically, uh, so the best way to play test your game is not looking at the playtester when it's playing, because if not, it's biased, like the test, because they feel observed and it's like, oh yeah, I need to play the game because he's looking at me, but if you're not looking at them, maybe you're recording or it's on Steam, no, you really get the real data because they're on their own, you know, and so yeah, it's what I also mentioned.
Absolutely. Perfect. So Demx's, I'm guessing that's Demons or something, asks, one thing I'm most concerned about, uh, wait, we talked about this. Okay, perfect. So, one of the things I'm most concerned about is making a game that during development, I feel like it's fun. Oh yeah, but this is more or less what we discussed, which is basically how to make sure that the game is player focused versus developer focused, and the answer is mostly through playtesting to a certain extent. All right. So Mahmoud is Dima's, Demo. I'm not sure what your name is. I'm sorry. Let me know if we answered your question. So Mahmoud is asking, I'm still learning game dev, and I'm trying to also learn several other skills, such as pixel art, programming, and other things, so that my partner and I can make games in the future. But sometimes I feel like it's really hard to balance it with my studies and learning all of this. So do you think it's possible to learn these skills within like 2 years, or would that be too difficult? I always feel like the journey is long and challenging, and I'm afraid that one day I'll end up giving up, especially with the pressure of college and everything else. So. Yeah, how would you work through this?
Um, I mean, this is more of like how to say it. Doesn't matter technically. For me, it doesn't matter. Like if you have fun learning, go for it. I mean, what's stopping you? You know, if at the end of the day you make a game, perfect. If you don't do it and you, I don't know, go playing football, perfect. You know, it's like if you're having fun. I mean, this is the same of gaming. You know, in life you need to be happy. So if that makes you happy, go with it. Why to stop it? Don't be afraid of what will happen. I mean, it's never lost time. You know, if while doing it you're happy, you're having fun, then it's not lost time. So go for it. The other ways would be like if you, while studying, you are sad, you know, and frustrated, then it's a different topic, right? But if you really enjoy learning how to make a video game, go for it. Doesn't matter where you will end up. No, no. I mean, I think it's the fun part of it. No, it's like you don't know what your future is gonna uh, prepare for you. No, basically. So yeah, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like this answer, honestly. Like, yeah, Mahmoud, don't forget that the reason you're learning this is so that you're able to make a game. Sometimes you can just make the game and learn the skills you need along the way. So you don't need to learn
Hmm.
all, like I remember when I was teaching no, like a student from school, he came over and he was like, "Hey, so how can I become a game dev? I learned all of Python this summer, and now I'm thinking of learning all of C++." plus plus." And I'm like, "Okay, good for you." But like like the idea of someone saying I learned all of Python or all of C++ plus plus is a very interesting like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
all of a programming language. It's like saying I learned all the dictionary. But no, no, I learned all the sentences. So sometimes when you want to make a game, it's okay just to learn one part of it and make one part. And sometimes it's okay to talk to friends and like find people who have the skills that you may need to make the thing. But just as Mario said, like enjoy the journey, especially since you're still in college and you're still studying, like you don't have to pay bills. So the don't put this much pressure on yourself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And at the end of the day, it's like one of the best ways of learning is learn by doing. So
Hmm.
don't just, as it's like, read the whole C sharp documentation API. No, no, just watch some videos on YouTube, try to put some player moving around, and
Yeah,
then continue from there. And by the end of the day, you will start learning how to you need to work or Godot or whatever you choose. You know, and then if you want to specialize, you specialize, and that's it. But yeah, it's enjoy
100%.
as also like enjoy the enjoy the ride. No.
All right. So Sarah asked if there's a specific checklist. Is there a specific checklist that should be that we're gonna basically make? No. So Sarah, there isn't a checklist per se, but we do expect you to make even a tiny, tiny game by the end of this program. So as Ahmed mentioned as well, you just need to have a game that works more or less. All right. So two more questions, and I guess this will be it. So I'll start with Ahmed's question. This is like another Ahmed, which is when does difficulty become a bottleneck, and when does it become a core mechanic of a game? So when is difficulty a problem per se, and when is it actually a part of what the game is? So like,
So,
yeah,
well, yeah, if you want to answer, I mean,
I'll add like
okay,
a to it, but you start if you would
okay,
like.
okay, okay. So, difficulty as so to me, this is something, it's ID software, no? Like Dark Souls pulled out, but that's it. You know, it's like it's very hard to make your game difficult unless you're going towards that genre and then people understand, like, okay, yeah, it's a Souls like, so it's hard. For other genres, mm, it gets hard. It gets hard because when it becomes difficult, you drop players. I mean, at the end of the day, basically, it depends for what you're making the game. If you're making the game for to get money out of it, you need to imagine like, okay, how many people is going to play to my game? If you target games or you make your game difficult, it means that you are targeting hardcore players. Hardcore players, what are? I mean, I don't know. I don't know, let's say it's 33% of the whole population that plays games. So then you have less chances to sell your game, right? Because you are pointing it to lesser audience. But of course, if you make like an amazing game that it's hard, like a Souls like better than the Dark Souls, then of course you still have like a big amount of players that could get it. But still, it's what I said. Like it's hard. It's hard because you are reducing your audience basically, and if it's not your first game, then maybe give it a try. But if it's your first game, I don't know if it's your first game, then choosing difficulty as the core mechanic, it's gonna give you a lot of struggles, basically. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. And like also it depends on how you define difficulty. Because like some games are like, oh yeah, so you want to play like the easy, the hard, or the super hard mode. And the difference between like all of these modes is how many hits your player can take and how many hits the enemies can take. So that's not making the game difficult. That's just making it like, bullet sponges versus glass cannons.
Mm.
Whereas in other games, it's like, so let's take Binding of Isaac or Hades or Dead Cells or whatever. Like a lot of these games, the enemies are all the same difficulty, but it's your skill that improves over time. So in a case like this, it's not the game that's difficult, it's your skill that's low and is increasing. So that's also another way to think about it. Dark Souls is kind of the same, you have to know how to time your dodges, your parries, etc., and accordingly decide what you want to do. But at the end of the day, whatever genre you choose, you're going to be choosing something to do. And this something that people do is what will decide what kind of players will come to you. So if you're targeting players that like to be challenged in terms of fighting and difficulty, you have to either define difficulty. Is it like difficulty in puzzle solving? Is it difficulty in like speed of reaction time? Is it difficulty in terms of patience? Is it difficulty in terms of strategy? And then accordingly decide what kind of difficulty you want to build into your game. So it's a very it's a lot of answer to give, but yeah, I hope this kind of gives you an idea. So the final question I think we have at the moment, which is also going to be answered in a different session, but if you would like to just give us a brief overview, and it is, how would you approach marketing your game?
A big question, this one. So marketing the game, it's complex for gaming. I mean, at the end of the day, when you are like a small company, you don't have the resources to invest a lot into, let's say, ads or even trailers. Well, now with AI, it's simpler, but let's say it's expensive. Uh, so it's all about trying to maximize your exposure on social networks, on through events. So uh, basically, the main strategy for small studios, specifically for PC, is what I'm most um, like specialized on. Basically, it's get your demo as soon as possible. Okay. A demo that it's very polished, that you play test, maybe with your friends, or maybe there are some platforms like when you play test your game, or you can take it to some small fairs, maybe locals or internationals. You make sure your game is fun, you know. It's very polished, and then you publish your demo on Steam. Okay. And then when you get your demo on Steam, you start promoting it. You post it on socials, you send to influencers. Mostly like influencers, it's one of the things that will raise you more wishlist, let's say, for your game. So from that point on, you start building it. You need to build like wishes. I mean, sadly, let's say, the current like industry or marketing model, how it works right now for in the studios is to accumulate wishlist right now. So it's like you just get your demo out, see how it works, and then if you are getting good with this with the social post, reaching to influencers, then you can see if your game is really good or not. Like if you release your demo and then you start reaching to all that influencers, social networks, and then you get, I don't know, 5 people to play, means that your demo is not enough, and you should either iterate or drop it and start working on something else. If you release a demo and after that, after I don't know 1 2 months or 3 months of content creators, social media, you see that you are getting really good wish lists, you get people playing, you get good reviews, then it's a good sign. And then you continue, right? And then you continue your marketing strategy the same way, like reaching to influencers. Then at some point, when you gather enough wish lists, I don't know, let's say 5, 10,000, or even lower, you can even be in 3,000, 4,000. You attend to the Steam Fest, because the Steam Fest is a multiplayer of wish lists. So you attend to the Steam Fest, more people see your game, then you attend to events. You can even launch your demo together with an event. If they want to, you can contact them and say like, yeah, I'm gonna launch my demo. Maybe we can align it with the event, and they give you the exclusive, and they release your trailer. I don't know. You can reach to press. So there are many things you can be doing along the way. But probably the most critical point of the whole marketing is that demo. You get that demo online, see how it performed during the next 2 3 months maximum, and based on the numbers, if you see it's going well, you continue. If not, you teach it, and that's it. And when I say going well, it's like realistically speaking, it's like if you get, I don't know, one wish list a day, it's nothing. But if you get 10 plus a day, it's a good number. From 10 above, 50, 100, like it's insane. So if you get on those numbers, 10 plus, then it's a good sign that your game is good, and then your marketing works. Then you can continue that, or even if you have a publisher, you can request money for marketing, and they will put into some ads, or they will pay some influencers. But this is as much as you can do, like with as an indie studio.
Perfect. I think this is a great place to end this. Mario, thank you so much. Honestly, this
Yeah,
was
it was a pleasure.
so if anyone wants to reach you, check out your games, etc., where can they do that?
Where can they do that? Well, our games are on Steam. So basically, if you look Receipt, or the other one is Deflector, basically you can see the games there. To reach me out, I'm not very active in social networks, but I do. I am in LinkedIn. So if you look at me into LinkedIn, I will accept your request. And if you have any questions, you can send me there. I'm always happy to answer them.
All right, great then. Thank you so much, Mario. Thank you everyone for attending, and we'll speak soon.
It was a pleasure, and good luck to everyone with your games.
Yeah. Bye.